Recently, I saw The Labyrinth in theaters for its 40th anniversary, and it reminded me of something that is so rare in movies made now. This film was made with real sets, dozens and dozens of puppets, and practical effects that really add to the magic of both how this movie is made and the storytelling. So this video, we're going to be covering a lot. So grab your snacks, grab your tea. Today, we're going to be deep diving The Labyrinth. This video will be categorized into 4 sections. Number 1, make and create creatures, because there are so many puppets in this film. Scene breakdowns, overall plot message, and bonus conspiracies, kind of like hidden meanings that the film probably isn't about, but it might be. So we're going to talk about it. Starting with the makes and creates. This film was written, at least the first draft, was written by Monty Python's Terry Jones, produced by George Lucas, yes, the same person who made Star Wars, and directed by Jim Henson, of course, the one and only. And then the music and songs throughout the film were made by David Bowie. Can you name a better duo? I don't even know. So many people, great people involved in this film, and you can tell because it is just amazing. A while ago, I got the crystal ball from the Labyrinth. It's back there. Yes, and in that box came with original concept art before the film came out. This is kind of like when they're first making the film. They're just trying to get a feel of the vibe. So show and tell time, we have, I'm guessing that's Sarah, opening a door, and the door is full of faces. I think that's so neat. And I'm guessing this is Hoggle or some type of goblin that is with her, and it gives it that dark fantasy vibe that we see throughout the whole film. Next, we have another concept art of this guy from the film, and it just really gets you a feel of his vibe. Hole in the sock, his chair is made of books, so I'm guessing there's a lot of knowledge that comes from him, which we see in the film, so it makes a lot of sense. Another cool detail is in the blanket or pants that he's wearing, you can see that where his knees are patched, almost to show that it's really worn. Just things that these people are thinking about, or Brian Froud, who drew these, just really showing that these things are lived in. Next, this is one of the first concept arts for Toby, the kid that goes missing. This may be my own thoughts, but Brian Froud's son ended up being Toby in the film, and I feel like this concept art was deeply inspired by that, and he is surrounded by goblins. This character isn't in the film, or at least I did not notice him. He looks like he's sitting on something, and the little skeleton down here kind of looks like he's sitting on the same thing that's all connected, and there are mice coming out of his armor that he has on. And the last one, the two-headed guard, where she has to make a decision through the door. There's text on there too that's like its own language. Not sure if that was inspired by any specific language or if they made their own specifically for this film, because I know for Dark Crystal, they had their own language in the film. So I would believe if they would make their own languages for each film to really immerse them into the world. Anyway, yeah, I thought that would be cool to share with the class. It also came with this whole book of like behind the scenes pictures and like thoughts from the film. So I kind of looked into a lot of different things for researching my deep dive of this film. Now, there were a lot of scenes where practical effects are so important, and I feel like we need to talk about the Magic Dance right away, because there is so much happening. In this scene alone, there were 48 puppets, which is insane. It's a lot. They were saying that they started out with 20 puppets in this scene, which is crazy already. Then they did the scene, realized we need more. So they basically doubled that amount. Even though there were 48 puppets, there were 52 puppeteers on the set. And there is even more to this scene. Not only were there 52, 53 puppeteers, there were also little people in costumes that were on flying rigs, and chickens and birds and things going on as well. And the song Magic Dance, the baby, it's so funny because they brought in a kid to film the little baby noises in the Magic Dance song, and this kid would not say nothing. So it's funny because David Bowie ended up making all of the baby sounds in that song. This also makes me think of the sets, because that scene in Magic Dance, the entire set is real. Watching this movie in theaters was so different because I never noticed how sparkly all of the sets were. It really adds to that fantasy element of it being like a daydream and adventure. It's giving like Legend with Tom Cruise, like that kind of vibe, but more puppets. And I actually love it because it reflects off of the lights so pretty, and it gives that dreamlike feel. Also, practically speaking, in the makes and creates category, there were a lot of illusions on set to make things work. In one of the first scenes where Sarah is walking through the labyrinth, she sees like this really long walkway that just seems like endless, and these sets are real, and they added a painted wall. It's literally Looney Tunes. It's a wall that's painted that looks like it's continuing even though it's not. Another thing I do want to mention is the hands in the one scene when Sarah is falling to the oubliette. Am I saying that correctly? When she is falling down and all those hands are catching her. I don't know if it was 20 feet or if it was 40 feet structure of these hands. And I love, love, love the use of another thing with illusions, making the hands look like faces. I think that is so fun to make faces out of things that aren't. We see that a few times throughout this film, and it's just so good. Now, there will be other practical facts and things that I have throughout this, but for now, we're going to move on to our second category, which is the creatures. Starting off first with our BFF Hoggle. Talking practically, the actress that was playing Hoggle couldn't really see out of the mask. So they painted her eyes black so that way whenever the mouth opened, she could see out. But because of this, anytime the mouth was closed, she could not see. So they would make it that Hoggle would say these random grunts or noises as he's walking to like one point to another, just so she could like see where she was going and where she was walking. For the mask itself, it's so interesting because you really don't know how many people work on a film, let alone like one aspect of it. So even though there was one person as Hoggle, walking around as Hoggle, Brian Henson was doing the voice of Hoggle, while 3 other puppeteers did the mechanics for Hoggle's face. And interesting how people can work together in a way that is so much of a unit that you're like, I know the flow of this person's timing to be like, oh, I know they're going to do this at this time, so I'm going to do that at this time. Another thing I want to talk about, this isn't really a puppet, but more so very much a creature, is it's called a lichen. This moss-like creature kind of looks like it would be in the ocean that has eyes on the end of it. And I think it's just so neat from a mechanical standpoint and from a visual standpoint of seeing all of these eyes move to look at something. Very Medusa, except maybe it doesn't turn you into stone, it turns you into moss or something. It took like 4 or 5 mechanical things to get these eyes to move organically, looking like it's independent while still being a unit as well. I also love how wacky it looks. It's straight up nightmare fuel and I love it. Next we have the little worm. There were at least 2 of these worms. One of them was big and the other one was small for in the scene. That way they could really show the details of when the puppet's moving with their eyes and everything while still showing 2 shots between the worm and Sarah. Moving on to Ludo, the adorable, relatable friend of Sarah. Him just going, smell. I feel you, bro. I get it. This puppet was freaking huge. It weighed over at least 100 pounds at first, and it ended up being about 75 pounds. Okay, next I want to talk about the Fireys, which literally terrify me so much. These little Fireys, they can take off their hands, they can take off their heads, they can eat their eyes, they can do basically anything. Absolutely terrifying. I'm not sure how many puppeteers each of these Fireys had, but they had them behind a screen so that way you could really see the heads leave their bodies, bounce them around like basketballs. Just really neat how they were able to do that, because usually with puppets, it's like you got the head to the body and that's it. But how do you keep their face moving while the head is removed and have it be smooth like that? Another character I absolutely love is Didymus. He is this dog who rides a dog and is very honorable, very courageous. At first, I realized, oh, that's the dog from the beginning. And not only is Didymus a puppet, but the dog also is a puppet. There is also the giant hoarder lady, which is me at the Goodwill bins. And then we have the giant guard creature. We have to talk about this, where when they first get to the city and they go through the doors, there is another door that forms this giant guard. It adds to the illusion aspect of the labyrinth that we see throughout this film. Okay, moving on to our next category, scene breakdowns. Now, these are scenes that stuck out to me personally. Starting off, Sarah's room in the very beginning of the film. Everything in that scene foreshadows the rest of the film. Every character, stuffed animal, we see later in the film. References to other films kind of show you how the story goes in that. We see the Wizard of Oz. Just so many things that happen later in the film. Okay, let's talk about the riddle. I still do not understand this riddle. I have tried so hard. I watched a TikTok about it and they explained it. Still don't get it. I really am trying here. Okay, this is what we know, guys. One guard is lying. One guard is telling the truth. Which one? We don't know. Sarah asked the question, would the other guard say that this door leads to the castle? And basically, if the one guard says no, then you know that the other guard is going to say no, which means no. If he says yes, then he's still going to say no. What? I really don't understand this. And that makes me wonder too, if that door that she chose actually did lead to the castle. Because yes, she fell down, but all those hands asked her, do you want to go up or do you want to go down? So like, imagine she went up and then she went that way. Would that lead her to the castle in the end? These are questions. I have so many questions about this film. It's very tricky, but I also really like that about this film, how there are so many riddles and things that go with the labyrinth theme. It's like a giant puzzle and I just love it. Next, we're going to break down one of Jareth's scenes. It starts out with Hoggle walking up. He's missing his loot. And as he enters this scene, we see this illusion, another illusion again, of a bunch of rocks. And the way this is framed looks exactly like David Bowie's head. Absolutely love. I think that showing this rock right away shows you that this is about to be Jareth's scene. We see kind of the power dynamics between Hoggle to Jareth. Jareth is the king of the goblins, he's the king of the castle, and Hoggle is one of his servants. And we kind of see this push and pull of Hoggle wanting to tell Jareth what he wants while still looking out for Sarah because he does care about her. And it's a great test of, I guess, seeing where Hoggle's head is really at. At the end, Jareth tells Hoggle to give Sarah this peach, and that if she does kiss him, they're going to the Bog of Stench. So this puts Hoggle in a very difficult position because he knows this peach is not good for her. He knows it. But he knows that he has to because Jareth is like on the speakers going, you got to do it, Hoggle, or the Bog of Stench and this and that. We kind of see that in this scene by how Jareth is above him, both in the scene physically and also the way he words things and things like that to show that he is king. I guess another scene we could break down is the dance scene after Sarah does eat the peach. The dream sequence of Sarah at this ball. Everyone is wearing a mask, not showing their face. The only person you really can see is Jareth. And it's hard to tell if this is Sarah's fantasy or if this is Jareth's fantasy with Sarah, and this is how he wants her to view him. Wow, I really ate with that. And really trying to control perceptions, keeping Sarah controlled in that way, which is actually insane. Love her dress. Love seeing that CGI of that bubble break that looks like glass going everywhere, showing that the fantasy is done. This is not reality. Now, every scene in this film had a storyboard with it. These are drawn images just kind of showing how the scene will look. And out of all of the scenes in this film, they were so strict with making sure that this was exact for the last labyrinth scene, just because of how complicated it is and how the gravity changes depending on where they are in the scene. so neat having Toby end up catching the ball. That little guy can move, can he? Because like all he had to do was sit in a spot and Sarah would have got to him. But he was exploring everywhere, which, you know what? I don't blame him. That is a pretty neat place to be. Okay, now we're going to move on to the overall message of this film. We got there, guys. Now, the overall meaning of this film has to go with childhood, the theme of childhood. At least that's what I got by the end of it. And kind of keeping that inner child, your imagination, that fire in you alive throughout your life. But it can look a little bit different throughout time. We see this in the very first scene going back, all of these stuffed animals, and kind of this is Sarah's imagination. At least how I looked at it was, is Sarah crazy? Actually, no, she's just a kid with an imagination. We don't know if what she experienced was real or not. Even though, you know, at the end we see them come back into the room, that could still be her imagination, which honestly, that's fine. At the very end of the film, they all say, "Should you need us?" That kind of goes with the overall childhood theme. Almost like when you're a kid and you have that stuffed animal that kind of comforts you, you can have that whimsy of childhood wonder, look at the world in a kind of fresh perspective. That option is there should you need us. That's kind of how I took that, and kind of not saying goodbye to childhood, but embracing that it's changing. The overall of it is more like letting Sarah explore her imagination in this way of having these stakes of her little brother being taken and her like going on this big adventure to get him back with her friends. Another thing, towards the end of the film, in that big labyrinth ending where it's a big puzzle of steps, we see Jareth. He says, "I can't live within you." And usually people say like, "I can't live without you," but this was different. And I feel like we can look at it in two ways, both romantically speaking, how Jareth views his relationship with Sarah in this world, or we can look at it with the overall meaning of childhood and almost viewing it as like a death of childhood within her and her growing up. Looking at it romantically, we could see this as like Jared can't live within Sarah because she does not love him the same way that he loves her. So there is possibly no way for that love between them to live within her if she does not feel the same way towards him, which is a deep dive. That's just one theory. Now for the last category, we have the conspiracies, which I'm very excited about because I love a deep dive into a film and seeing kind of hidden meanings within it. We've already gone over the overall meaning being childhood and kind of growing up while staying true to your imagination and your inner child within. In this section, this is more of the hidden meanings, fun little theories that I kind of thought about while watching this film. Going back to the Goblin City when they enter. This place is very strange. There are a lot of different characters. The labyrinth itself, the symbol for the labyrinth, means mind control or entrapment of the mind, which we see exactly with what Jareth does to Sarah and this freaking Peach. The thing about a labyrinth as itself is that it's a maze without exits. There isn't really a way out once you go in. And I think that bringing in the symbol of the labyrinth makes it into this mesh of like her mind is entrapping her. Anyway, I got so sidetracked there. But going back to the Goblin City when they're all walking through, I really was thinking about what is this place? Where did it come from? What happened here to make it the way that it is today? Similar to Dark Crystal, how you're like, how did these Skeksis take over? And in this city, we notice all of these houses and buildings. There are belongings in there, but they are completely empty. And it made me think, who was living there and why aren't they there now? Later in that same scene, we see a fountain, and in the fountain we see a bunch of statues that look exactly like Hoggle. Stay with me here. Why is Hoggle the only dwarf in the labyrinth? And this has made me believe that we are having a similar situation to Dark Crystal, where Jareth has come in similar to the Skeksis, and the Hoggles, I'm just going to call them the Hoggles of the world, were all in this city. until Jareth took over and something has happened to them. I don't know what, maybe they turned into the goblins. That is where it is an open book. Something has happened to these Hoggles. Going back to the very beginning of the film, we see the book Wizard of Oz throughout, kind of like a panning shot. We see all these books lined up. And there are a lot of parallels to the Wizard of Oz in this film. In the way of illusions, we see a lot of that, and like how the wizard has illusions to make it seem like it's this big thing. We see that with Jareth trying to make Sarah view things a certain way. It's like a dark Wizard of Oz. So in this case, Sarah would be Dorothy, and I guess the people that she meets along the way, they kind of represent things in the Wizard of Oz, where like Didymus and Ambrosia, I think is the dog's name, represent courage, the courageous lion. It's not even like a lacking thing, but just certain traits that they have that are also in the Wizard of Oz. With Didymus, they mention a few times being courageous and him like fighting all these guards and being like, oh, you came back for more, huh? And it's just him. And he's like, we have them surrounded. And it's like them surrounding him. We also see the opposite of that in Hoggle, where he's like, I have no, I don't know what word they use, where he's very material. He loves jewelry and all that stuff, but he's also very quick to like leave and be like, I am not dealing with that. Literally me. Ludo has a lot of heart throughout the whole film, very caring and sweet. How many people does Dorothy have in The Wizard of Oz? Scarecrow, Tin Man Lion. 3 and 3. And in this case, Jareth would represent the wizard. And instead of those flying monkeys, we have the goblins. I guess for Dorothy, she's going home. But for Sarah, she's going to save her brother to go home in the end. I love any film that's going to go on a fun adventure and try to connect you with your inner child imagination. If you have any fun theories on the Labyrinth, I would love to know them. Please comment them down below. If you want to see more film-related content or art, crafts, fun things like that, check out my channel down below, My Creates, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!